We just want to say a very warm welcome here from Yorkshire. Unfortunately, it's not a very warm welcome at all. We've got snow outside, which means that the fantastic day that we've been enjoying here in the centre of Leeds is now marked by everybody running to the train station and to their cars to desperately try and get at home before they get caught in snowstorms. To put this in context, there's about 1 millimetre of snow, but this is England where people aren't used to snow at all. So the type of snow that we'd get in Scotland or you get in America that you wouldn't even blink an eye about causes our whole sort of system to shut down. So we might even curtail this sort of a system in order that we're not trapped in the centre of Leeds overnight. But it's a real great joy to be welcoming everybody from both sides of the Atlantic to this special live broadcast from Leeds. And the reason that we're meeting in Leeds is because we want to build a better world for children and young people. And we really want to see how we can use connected data resources to make that happen. So what we're going to be doing over this session is just telling you about some of the really exciting things that are happening here in Yorkshire, which are really going to give us some fantastic data resources that we hope are really going to make a difference to the terrible problems that are playing out for far too many children and young people in this part of the world, but for children and young people throughout the whole world. So let me just hand over to Bella now, who will say her welcome from Yorkshire. Absolutely amazing to have Bella across here. One of the things that we've been talking about all of today is how important it is that we connect and coordinate, how we all work together, how we break down geographical boundaries, how we break down organizational boundaries. And it's just been such a joy to have Bella here representing the US, representing California, representing Stanford. So Bella, over to you.
So good to see everyone. As most of you know, I'm Isabella Chu. I'm the Associate Director of the Data Core at the Stanford Center for Population Health Sciences. It's been an absolutely incredible time here. And I think the thing that's really stood out is that we in California and in the United States, but particularly California, and the folks here in the UK and in Bradford and Leeds in particular are grappling with many of the same things, and that the same kinds of political challenges, practical challenges, data linkage challenges that hold true in the US also hold true here. And so the thing I kept coming away with again and again is because there's so many things in common, there's so much opportunity to find solutions that work in both places and for collaboration. There are many sort of social and in even physical and environmental things where if we can do research here, the answers will map to the US. So it's been a fantastic time and I've really enjoyed it and learned so much. So.
Excellent. So what we want to do now is just bring you up to speed on all the exciting things that have been happening. And then we'll go back in sort of time and just sort of talk about the data assets that we currently have that we really want to encourage everybody to use. But we really want to look forward to the future and hopefully get everybody excited about the phenomenal data assets which are coming live in the near future. So the reason that we've been gathering today is to start exploring how we can work together to build a better world for children and young people. And the timing is great for us because in Leeds, we're getting a new children's hospital. So a £60 million new build. And of course, with that new build come new opportunities. And we have a great opportunity to not just do more of the same, but to start looking at how evidence can help us deliver better public services in our hospitals, but also how we can get upstream of the health problems that are afflicting our children and young people and actually stop children and young people needing to come into the hospital. And in order to be able to use that evidence, we've created CORAL, which is the Child Health Outcome Research at Leeds Centre. And today we've been celebrating the launch of that new centre, a collaboration, a virtual organization that brings together everybody who wants to improve outcomes for children and young people, who wants to do research that's really going to make a difference. And what we've been doing today is talking about how we can act as a community that brings together journalists, politicians, researchers with policymakers in order to start improving life for the next generation. And one of the things that we're doing over 2024 is starting to produce a series of parliamentary reports that bring together the evidence accumulated by academics and putting that evidence in the hands of policymakers, in the hands of decision makers, so that they can start to do right by children and young people throughout the world. So our first report really had a strong focus on the power of using connected data sets to improve public service delivery in the United Kingdom, in America, and again throughout the world. What we're now doing over 2024 is releasing 12 parliamentary reports. And each report is looking at a very specific topic. So our first report was on autism. Our next report is on poverty-proofing schools. Our third report is around using schools and educational establishments as hubs that connect health and social care and policing approaches. Our fourth report's on mental health, and so on and so forth. And we'd encourage everybody to sign up for these reports and start joining our campaign for governments around the world to start putting children first. But the theme that cuts across all of these different reports is the power of connected data to start helping us understand where the problems originate, but also what are the solutions to those problems that we're seeing playing out across our society, particularly in our most disadvantaged areas. And what we've been doing today is talking about the phenomenal opportunity that we have to bring all of our routine administrative data within Yorkshire together in one secure data environment, so we can really start understanding the intersections and interactions between public services. So we can start seeing how health, both primary and secondary care, intersect and interact with education, with social care, with involvement in the criminal justice system, with the environment in which families are growing up, the proximity to green space, but the air quality, and all of these other sort of factors. So our focus now is on creating the Connected Yorkshire database, a database that will contain data on over 5 million individuals with all aspects of those individuals' lives connected and described through these administrative data sets. It'd be one of the most powerful data assets that exists anywhere in the world. And we're delighted that our colleagues in Stanford and all of our different public service colleagues are coming together to start exploring how this asset can be created and how we can create it at pace. But what we want to do today is just take a little step back and actually just give you the history as to how we've got to this sort of a point, because we've actually arrived at this sort of point because of the willingness of all the sort of our partners to start us building a connected data set that shows the power of this approach. And so to talk through the history of this, we've got to go to Bradford. So we're broadcasting live from Leeds, and a 20-minute train drive away, we have the city of Bradford, the youngest city in the United Kingdom. And in Bradford, we have the Wolfson Centre for Applied Health Research, which is our partnership between the University of Leeds, where we're broadcasting from today, but together with the University of Bradford and together with the Bradford Teaching Hospital Trust. And this is a partnership of organisations who have come together to try and drive improved population health. And within the Bradford Institute for Health Research and our Bradford Teaching Hospital Foundation Trust, with the great privilege of leading some really exciting pieces of work. And one of the most exciting pieces of work that we have is the Born in Bradford project, established by John Wright, a visionary who understood the importance of us understanding how multiple factors play out early in life to determine the long-term physical and mental health outcomes of a population. So over a 4-year period, all of the pregnant mothers across Bradford were recruited into the Born in Bradford project. That resulted in a birth cohort of 13,818 sort of children. Those children are being followed as they grow up. Those children are now entering secondary school, and the cohort's being expanded to every child in every school year that contains Born in Bradford sort of children. So that means we now have a cohort of 30,000 young people where we have every scrap of information on their lives, allowing us to start really interrogating how we can improve outcomes for that population and for populations throughout the world. And the most important thing that happened, we believe, within Born in Bradford was obtaining consent from the mothers, to allow us to link up their data with their children's sort of better data and give us sort of consent to start pulling together all of the routine administrative data into one place. And that really allowed us to start drastically improving our public service delivery. And it's been so successful that we were able to start really joining up the dots in terms of what was happening in the hospitals, in social care, in schools, in our criminal justice system, and in our ambulance sort of system. So we could suddenly start defragmenting the terribly fragmented public service delivery that is endured within the United Kingdom. And what it's really allowed us to start doing is start tackling some of the wicked problems that are playing out across our broken systems. So if we can just look at one example of that, it's around the autism assessment and support crisis that we currently have within the United Kingdom. So in Bradford alone, we have 2,759 children on an autism waiting list who can wait up to 5 years to obtain a diagnosis. And during that time, they get absolutely no support for their needs. And when we start looking at those autism waiting lists, we can just see the structural inequalities that are really blighting our country. So we see that girls are obtaining a diagnosis years behind their male counterparts. We see that individuals of South Asian heritage are receiving a diagnosis far beyond their white sort of British counterparts. And we see massive socioeconomic sort of gradients. And this is hurting us as a country because all of the evidence that we see in the data then shows that our failure to support these children's needs during those early years is creating a mental health epidemic downstream. And that mental health epidemic is causing a school absence crisis. So here in Leeds, we're looking around about 10 to 12,000 children who should be at school persistently absent. In Bradford, we're finding 30,000 young people are not turning up at school with all of the terrible safeguarding issues and the terrible long-term consequences that produces. And what we can see in our sort of data sets is how that's sort of driving a large population of individuals that in the UK we call NEET, not in employment, education and training. And we can keep playing those patterns through within our data sort of set because we see that population with NEET then start entering the criminal justice system, they become homeless. And ultimately they start crippling our NHS sort of systems because of all their long-term physical and mental health needs. And what's so tragic about this is the cost that we're paying as a society for all of those long-term mental health problems, all of that midlife multi-mobility is a bill that we just can't afford. And if we just invested a relatively small amount earlier on in supporting those children on the autism waiting list, we could suddenly start to save billions in taxpayers. And suddenly, instead of having a group of individuals who've been failed and unable to contribute towards society, we'll actually have a vibrant workforce who can help us get the economic growth that we need in order to reverse some of the terrible problems that are playing out across the UK. So things were bad before the pandemic. Since the sort of pandemic, things have just got far, far worse. And again, our data have allowed us just to really start sort of seeing the huge sort of challenges that we're facing. And again, the problems that we have is that our systems are just not geared up to deal with these problems that are being amplified and exasperated by COVID-19. And again, we just sort of see these problems that are playing out early on in life, causing so many difficulties late on. So the sort of data shows clearly that the children who are growing up in poverty in that first year of life are going to have multiple vulnerabilities down sort of stream. So children born into the poorest fifth of families in the UK are almost 13 times more likely to experience a wide range of health and education outcomes by the age of 17 compared to the more affluent sort of our peers. So we've really got to start providing better sort of support. But again, we struggle to provide that support because our systems are so fragmented. And that's why the ability to connect data sets is so important, because it suddenly allows us to start seeing where are the gaps that all of our family, that all of our vulnerable individuals are falling between. And so these insights gave us the authority, the public mandate, if you like, to create the Connected Bradford data set. So data set that currently exists that contains the data of 800,000 citizens who reside in West Yorkshire, part of our Yorkshire sort of county, And what we've really been able to do with Connected Bradford is prove the principle, show that we can create these fantastic connected data assets that allow us to really start answering exciting questions about how we can improve physical and mental health outcomes for children and young people. But more than that, how we can actually drive population well-being. And with these data sets, we can suddenly start answering really interesting questions, such as the ability of the herpes zoster vaccine to start protecting individuals against dementia. So it's been wonderful for us to work with colleagues from Stanford who have been addressing this sort of question using these connected data sets. And so we're really excited to start seeing how we can now start really accelerating that work and building on that work to drive forward the changes that we want to see, both here in the UK and then across in America. And Bella will be talking just in a few sort of minutes about where those sort of synergies exist and how we can push and pull learning across the Atlantic. If I can just very quickly just sort of say how we've been starting to operationalize those sort of data insights. So it's fantastic to do exciting data analytics, but where it gets most exciting is when we can then apply those insights into real world systems. So what we've been doing within Bradford is bringing all of our stakeholders together around a shared understanding of the problems that are created through the data. And so we've created a Bourne and Bradford Centre for Applied Education Research, which connects up all of the schools within our district, 208 schools, primary and secondary schools, with our academic community. And then we can start bringing together different public service providers to start seeing how we can find joint solutions to the problems that are plaguing the children who turn up to those sort of schools day in and day out. And what we then can do is start bringing our different academic expertise to start addressing the priorities that our stakeholders tell us are their most urgent sort of needs. So within our Centre for Applied Education Research, we have 8 research and development themes, which bring together all of the relevant expertise from across the UK, from across our colleagues in America and throughout the sort of world, who can start giving the best possible advice to our public service providers. And we then have cross-cutting groups who make sure that that work is done ethically, who make sure that our communities are engaged with that work, who can make sure the work then plays out in our places. And all of this work is underpinned by these fantastic data assets, these fantastic data resources, typified by Bourne and Bradford and Connected Bradford. So I hope that you're starting to get a sense for the way that these data analytic pieces of research are actually changing the way that we do things across here in Yorkshire. And our focus so far has been on Bradford, but what we've been celebrating today is the opportunity to start expanding that work across to another part of West Yorkshire, across the sort of Leeds, but very much with a vision for that work then being pushed out across the whole of Yorkshire and then across the whole of the north of England. And today we've brought together the right stakeholders who can make that happen. And the theme of today has all been about the need for partnership working, for breaking down geographical and organizational boundaries in order that we all work together in the very best interests of children and young people. And so our vision is a vision where our academic community is hardwired in to all of the policymakers, be they in central government, in regional governments, in local governments, in integrated care boards, our commissioners, our health commissioners here in the UK. It's our argument that every decision-making body should be basing their decisions on the very, very best possible evidence. So academic communities need to lie at the heart of these endeavours. And what that then allows us to do is have everybody sat around the table, everybody playing their role in ensuring that the world we live in has systems which are fit for purpose, which serve the needs of every individual in every community. And we really, really believe that the connected sort of data work must lie at the heart of these endeavours in order that we have a shared understanding of the ground truth that is playing out in our communities. And what that then allows us to do is start allowing effective information sharing across practitioners. So we focus primarily on the scientific insights that can be driven through the data. But of course, the other thing we can do with these connected data sets is start allowing that pediatrician in the hospital who's trying to make challenging decisions about the best approaches for a particular child or a particular family to start understanding that family's needs in the round, start understanding what's happening in terms of that family's interactions with social care, with the criminal justice system, with the school sort of system. So our vision is that across Yorkshire and then across the UK, we can start much more effectively share information and join up practitioners in order to ensure that we have genuinely integrated care. And we are now at a fantastically exciting point in this history because the National Health Service have just awarded us a substantial sum of money to create a secure data environment for Yorkshire. And this will fund us to put in the infrastructure that will allow us not just to host Connected Bradford, but allow us to host Connected Yorkshire, where we'll build on the work that we've done within Connected Bradford, that we've done within Born in Bradford, to bring together these routine administrative data sets. But now, not for 800,000 citizens, but for 5 million citizens. And not just describing their lives now, but allowing us to go right back in history so we can sort of see what sort of happens early on in people's lives that are ultimately driving their outcomes in terms of physical health, mental health, educational attainment, and so on and so forth. So what a fantastically powerful resource this is going to provide. But in order for this to be successful, we really need to bring our community together to get behind this sort of piece of work and make sure that our researcher community is sort of supporting the works that we are bringing the very, very best of research to the table. So we have a vision for a secure data environment that will bring all of the information together in a transparent, patient-centered way that will really give the public confidence that we're acting in their best interests, but really create a step change in our ability to start dealing with the problems that lie ahead. And we're very, very fortunate within Yorkshire to have 3 integrated care boards who are passionately committed to seeing how we can use the Yorkshire secure data environment to start changing population health. So these are our commissioning sort of our boards who ultimately decide where we spend our NHS and social care sort of budgets. And they've committed to really driving this work forward. And Humber and North Yorkshire Integrated Care Board were here today, and they've already put their hand up and sort of said that they want to be one of the trailblazing sites, and they're prepared to put funds where their mouth is. They're prepared to start sort of supporting this work to allow us at pace to produce the Yorkshire Secure Data Environment, hosting Connected Yorkshire, and then start exploring how we can use that resource to understand what it is that we need to do now that will make all of the difference in decades to come. So that's the Connected Yorkshire vision, a vision of a data environment that will bring together all of that routine administrative data, but also house all of the rich sort of data that we have in all of various other projects as well, such as Born in Bradford, where we have the rich genetic information, the rich omics sort of information. This is our opportunity as a community to start really exploring the potential for data science to build a better world. And we're just so delighted here in Yorkshire that we've got such fantastic sort of colleagues across in Stanford supporting us on this sort of a journey. And what we are looking to do is show the power of Connected Bradford through Connected Yorkshire. Sorry, show the power of connected data through Connected Yorkshire. And then we have a fantastic community of our research-intensive universities across the north of England who will then ensure that this isn't just restricted to Yorkshire, but will be scaled up across the north of England at pace. So that's the vision. That's what we've been talking about today. That's what we're launching. And we are just, as I say, delighted that we're doing this in partnership, not just with colleagues throughout the whole of the UK, but with colleagues throughout the world. And that's why it's such a privilege to be here with Bella today. And on that note, in our live broadcast, I'm going to hand over to Bella, who's just going to be giving us the US-centric perspective on this vision.
So this was such an incredible day, as I said before, and I always think about the quip, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And this is incredibly well timed because the state of California is finally starting to realize the absolute necessity of connected data. This year, as soon as Q2 of 2024, the state of California is going to make their health data available, and then the final quarter of 2024, the social services data will be available. So we're several years behind Bradford, but Leeds. But it presents the opportunity to do research here in Bradford and Leeds. And in fact, they are putting their data into OMOP, as I understand it, so that if your code runs here, it's going to run in the US. So we can do proof of concept, we can do research here, and then there will be the opportunity to replicate it in the United States within a year. And so I think it just presents a really unique opportunity to validate and strengthen findings. And then just going back to the thing I observed again and again, even though the social safety net is stronger here, there's a different form of governance. Both countries are grappling with effectively the same issues, the same kinds of disparities, the same sources of disparity, the same kinds of populations really struggling to succeed. And then there are enough cultural similarities in how different governments respond and electeds that I think that the data here present a really unique opportunity to do cutting edge research, and are more similar to sort of US culture and circumstances than any of the other sort of connected EU data sets. So I personally am thinking about projects that we could do around, climate, around PM 2.5, around genetics. And I really hope that you are all thinking about what are things and questions that we could answer with such a connected data set. If you have any questions or want to explore this, please do reach out to me. And we'll be happy to get you going on a collaboration.
Wonderful. So we're looking at a window which has got lovely little snowflakes sort of falling, but won't be so lovely when we start trying to get on trains and public sort of transport or sort of cars to get out of here. So we just want to say a massive thank you to everybody for joining us today. It's been such an exciting day here. But as I keep sort of saying, it's been a day where the whole emphasis has been on connecting, coordinating, and really breaking down those geographical and organizational boundaries. The world is at a critical stage right now. The headlines for us in the UK were, for the first time, we've broken that 1.5 degree limit. It must be frightening for young sort of people growing up in this sort of a world. Young people who are facing literally existential sort of crises. And the solutions to those crises have got to lie in those young people. It's the next generation who are going to have to sort out the mess that, frankly, my generation have left them. But if there's one thing that we can do, I think it's around this fantastic piece of work around connecting sort of our data, allowing them to have the evidence that they're going to need in order to find the solutions to these sort of problems. So it's really wonderful that we've all come together today to start exploring how we can each play our role in building that better world for children, young sort of people. So this is just the beginning of the journey. It's a very, very exciting day for us today, a very, very tiring day, but we really ask everybody on this sort of a call to join us in making a better world and ensuring that the problems that the next generation face are at least mitigated by the fact that we give them some of the tools that they're going to need in order to create a world that's fit for every child and young person. And I think that's where we'll leave it, Mallory. So a huge thank you to Mallory and the team for setting this up. A huge thank you to everybody for joining us, and we will work together to build a better world. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.